Hi everyone, I'm Maureen Wiley. I'm a professor of composition and I study learning science for fun. And today I'm going to talk about 3 questions to ask yourself when writing an essay. The number one question is, what is the actual essay prompt? The essay prompt or the essay task or sometimes the essay assignment is the question that you're asked to respond to in the essay. And the number one issue I see with college level writing is students don't respond to the actual prompt, or the student's essay is on that topic, but it doesn't actually answer the question in the prompt. So the suggestion I have would be to take a look at the essay assignment, take a look at the question or the prompt that you're being asked, and define it in your own terms. Even better would be to explain it to someone else. And if you don't have anyone else around, imagine explaining it to someone else. So when I look at essay assignments, I like to encourage my students to imagine explaining it to someone who has never attended college, never enrolled in this class, or read the book that perhaps we're responding to. Another thing to do would be to look for the trap doors. Professors aren't trying to trick their students most of the time, but when it comes to essay assignments, there are often elements that are harder to spot the first time we take a look at the assignment. So read over the essay prompt, looking for all of the various elements, and make sure that there isn't anything that is perhaps missing from your response. An example of this would be in my classes, I ask my students to write an essay describing how and why a certain group of individuals would apply a growth mindset to achieve a specific goal. So lots of students write about how growth mindset could be used to achieve that goal. Many students write about why growth mindset could be used to achieve the goal. Very few of the students write about how and why. So take a closer look at the essay prompt, and that's going to give you confidence when approaching a writing assignment. The second question to ask yourself is, what thoughts are stopping me from taking actions? So when it comes to writing assignments, a lot of times we have some not so great thoughts about either ourselves, our capabilities, the class, the professor. Lots of things get in the way of actually taking action to get started with the writing assignment. So some of those thoughts might be something like, I'm not a good writer, or I'm terrible at writing essays. I know these are common thoughts because I hear them from my students all the time. And so when you sit down to work on an assignment, thinking thoughts like that can often lead to feelings of shame or just self-criticism, and that actually leads us to avoid working on the assignment because we falsely connected the assignment with the feeling of shame or the sense that we are going to think negative thoughts about ourselves. But that's actually coming from the thoughts that we're believing about ourselves. So another thought that sometimes students run into is this thought, I don't know enough about this subject, or I don't know how to get started. I call this turtle mode, when you're like a turtle on your back and you don't know how to get started. That feeling can often lead to anxiety or overwhelm, and luckily there is a quick fix. One of the best strategies to tackle that feeling of anxiety and overwhelm is to make a big, messy list of all the information you would need before you get started on your essay assignment. And what's great about that list is we can recognize the gaps in information, like, do we need to read some chapters in the textbook that we're assigned? Do we need to review our notes from lecture? Do we need to ask the professor some clarifying questions? That's going to give us a place to get started, and it's also going to help with the feeling of what I call the terror of the blank page. We've actually already gotten started with the writing assignment, so it's going to be a lot easier to kind of get that activating energy to get working on the assignment. And then another thought that is pretty common, and it might be a little bit of a sneakier thought to recognize, is the thought that is something along the lines of, this is pointless, or this is stupid, or I shouldn't have to do this assignment. And when our brains offer us those thoughts, I like to gently remind myself that brains never want to exert energy. Brains never want to do the work, and that doesn't mean anything has gone wrong. So when my brain tells me something like, this is pointless, this is stupid, I shouldn't have to do this, that might lead to some feelings like despair or even a sense of like rebelliousness. And I want to encourage you to lean into that sense of rebelliousness. Remind yourself, yeah, I don't actually have to do this. I don't have to turn in this assignment. I don't have to take this class. I don't actually have to be enrolled in college. I might not like the consequences of choosing not to do these things, but ultimately reminding ourselves that we are choosing this can be a really powerful way to recognize that we're doing this for ourselves, not because somebody else told us we have to. So that's a really useful tip. Whenever you're facing something and you're telling yourself, I have to do this, we literally don't have to do anything. We don't have to do our homework. We don't have to pay our taxes. We might not like the consequences of those things, but we don't actually have to do anything. And then finally, the third question is, how do I want to feel when I'm working on this assignment? So if you could choose any emotion that you're feeling when you're working on this assignment, what emotion would you choose? I actually love to feel proud of myself in terms of anything that I'm doing. So I like to practice cultivating the feeling of feeling proud of myself. And the way I do this is I think about a time when I felt that feeling spontaneously. And to me, I feel proud of myself whenever I try something new, something that requires me to step outside of my comfort zone, something that requires me to be brave, something that requires me to maybe learn and give something a try. Whenever I am trying, I feel this warm, rising sensation in my chest that I've come to recognize is the feeling of feeling proud of myself. And so I can cultivate that feeling by practicing thinking thoughts like, trying feels good, or trying makes me feel proud of myself. So I want to invite you to think about, what emotion would you like to experience? If you are experiencing any of the emotions I mentioned before, shame, anxiety, overwhelm, despair, rebelliousness, and those aren't motivating you, what emotion would motivate you? Consider playing around with different emotions. Would you like to feel proud of yourself, or are you more interested in being curious about the subject? Maybe you want to feel engaged in the learning process. Maybe you want to have a playful approach to this writing assignment. Maybe you want to feel powerful. So think about the times when you feel those emotions. What are you thinking? And practice thinking those thoughts before you start on your writing assignment. And they can help to not only get that activation energy, but they can cultivate this sense that you can bring that emotion up for you at any moment, at any time. So let me know in the comments which emotions you're going to practice feeling the next time you're working on a writing assignment.